Hey everybody, my name is Angie Morenga. You're watching Just Angie. We are so excited to be here. I love that it's the home and the house of inspiring conversations. And today I have some amazing women on the set. And we're going to be having a conversation about missing my mommy. And I love this book, but let me not get carried away. This is what we're going to be talking about. But let me allow you first to introduce yourselves, how you'd want my guests to know you. And thank you so much for coming. And I'm going to start with Patricia.
Well, thank you so much, Angie, for having me here. And it's a privilege to come and talk about my mommy. It has not been one of the easiest topics, but I'm happy to be here. My name is Patricia Waweru. First of all, a child of God. I think that's the most important identity for me. And I'm a counseling psychologist, a practicing one at the moment.
Yeah. And you're also serving at Mavuno Lavington.
Yes. I'm still struggling with that identity, but I'm serving as a pastor intern at Mavuno Lavington Church.
Amen.
Yeah.
Great. Saiton?
Hi, my name is Saiton Righa. I am a beloved daughter of God. I am a wife and a mother. I am also an entrepreneur, author, and podcaster. I podcast at Healing Growth. And this is my book, Missing My Mommy. I wrote it last year in 2024. And it has spurred a lot of conversations with a lot of people about just the relationships with their mothers and what it looks like to heal that.
Yeah, and I loved even the cover. I love the cover. I love the design. Really great. And I like that it's also a product of the Fearless Leadership Institute.
Yes.
I love that because you went through. Maybe you can just tell people a bit about that and how this book came to be.
Okay, so last year in 2024, I did the Fearless Leadership Bootcamp, and it's a product of the Fearless Leadership Institute. And what they do is you go through an intense year of learning, and one of the things that you need to do to graduate is you have to write a book. This book was really... It's something that God had told me to write for a long time. So I'd been trying to write it for about 3-4 years and I wasn't able to. So I joined the bootcamp to be able to write it. I went there for the book and came out with so much more: relationships, a deeper knowledge of God, growth, and just travel, because you also have to do a trip to Uganda. So I came out with so much more than I expected. But for me, the main thing that I went there for was a book, and God did above and beyond what I expected.
Yeah, and I'm really grateful because you see, the story, sometimes it's hard for me. I have to be in the right mood. Especially for sad things, even movies, books, or anything. I just have to be in a certain mindset to watch it. So there are things I will not watch because I cannot afford to be sad right now, because I've got to focus, because I think I immerse myself in the whole experience. But I'm really grateful that you wrote it, because just the bits I've been able to read, because I had to put it down at some point because it came too close to home. And then I said, okay, let me put it down. I'm going to read it. But I'm grateful that it's here. You see, it's a resource that's always going to be here. And it's a resource that is going to help a lot of people. And I think also why I wanted to have this conversation is that a mother is a very, very important role. Very, very important role. And even if I can refer to this, the place that I didn't want to continue from was when you said, you and your mom were very close, like me and Althea, and we do so much together. She would go everywhere with me. We slept in the same bed for very, very long. But then now, where I couldn't take it anymore and I stopped, but is when now that was taken away from me, because I could not imagine that being taken away, because it was such a key and important part. I think even for me, when I reflect on it now, it was part of my healing process, because also Althea carries a healing essence. So if there was healing, if there was no Althea in all the things that I went through, I don't know where I would be. So the role of a mother is very important. And I know that God also has provided for you other mothering roles, but I want to understand why missing my mommy. And Patricia, I also know a little bit about your mom's story, but I just want, and I don't think you're unique. It's sad to say that, but there are many people out there who have, because both your mothers are present but absent.
So for me, what I would say is, I'm an only child of my mom, and so I was very close to her the first 9 years of my life. Only child, so just the same as you and Althea, we did everything together. We slept in the same bed. Just mommy's little girl, so to speak. What happened was early 90s. If you go back historically, Kenya was going through a time similar to this. Economy was bad, people were being retrenched, there were no jobs. And what a lot of Kenyans did at the time was to leave the country to go and look for greener pastures. So my mom left to go to the US. And the initial plan was that I follow her. So she'd got me a passport, and that was the agreement. But I remember the day she left. I remember crying and feeling like I was never going to see her again.
Really?
Yes, I did. And I couldn't understand it. But now looking back, it was almost as if I knew that this was not going to happen again. Because when I saw her again, it was around 20 years later. The day before my wedding is when I saw her again. So basically, the child version of me never got to experience a mother in the way that I knew, right? And much like now, mothers are making the same decision many times over. And when I wrote the book, it was not a place to condemn them, because I do understand what the circumstances are. Sometimes you have to make difficult decisions, but it's also to make them aware of the impact that they may not see now, and possibly give them a way to parent their children. And as they pray for a reunification, as they pray for better things to come out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does, because 20 years is a long time. 20 years is, I don't even understand. And I'm thinking, was she in touch with you in those 20 years?
So she was in touch. There were phone calls when I was on holiday. I went to boarding from class 6, and I was in boarding all through till high school. So there were phone calls, but back in the day we had the fixed telephone, so it's in the sitting room, so you can't have discussions the way you'd like. And then there were letters, but we were both not very good letter writers, and so it wasn't the same, and it can't be the same, because one of the things I say is being a mother is home. And a lot of people, when they think about their relationships to their mother is who they go to for comfort, for nourishment, for sustenance, for even just being able to calm them down when they're in a difficult place, when something is going. That is what was missing.
So that was missing.
I didn't have that.
Even just a mother's hug.
Oh yeah.
But before I go to you, Patricia, tell me about you and your mom, although I know some of your story.
Well, for me, I didn't know my mom for the longest time. She left, from what I hear, when I was 3 years old.
And so you have no recollection?
No.
It's from what you're told?
Yeah, from what I'm told. And the next time I met her, the next time I had a real conversation with my mom was 30 plus years later.
30 plus?
Yeah, when my dad died. So
Patricia.
I couldn't even have known her if I met her on the way.
You wouldn't have known it was her?
No, because there
were no pictures?
Well, there used to be pictures, but I didn't think I for sure knew her.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, and I used to, when I was a child, when you're a child, you think it's your fault.
You think it's your fault?
Yeah. In psychology, we say children are very subjective. They think it's me all the time.
So, I made my mom leave.
Yeah. So even my mom leaving, I thought it was my fault. And I used to pray and tell God, when she comes back, I wouldn't be shouting, I wouldn't be doing bad things, I wouldn't be staying out late, like I'm going to be a perfect child, if only you can bring my mom back. But then, and I used to, so I had phrases about how I thought about my mom. So initially I was like, I'm going to be a very good child when I meet her. Then in teenage years, I was so angry. I was just like, I hate her. She's a bad mother for leaving. I was so angry at her. I remember once we met her in Kikuyu. It was me and my cousins. I didn't say hi to her. Like, I was just like, I'm not even talking to you. Because I was such an angry teenager. Then later now, in the later years, is when I've actually come to look at her and I thought, what hurt you so bad? That you couldn't even love your own children. Yeah. So after all the anger, now I'm looking at her as a young girl who had this young girl so bad that she had no love to even give her own children.
Wow.
So I think that's the stage I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said you sort of like relating to that.
Yes, completely. For me, it felt like first the biggest thing was wanting to be with her. So like an example is I hated my high school, which is a very good school, simply because it came in between the dream of going to be with my mom. The other thing is, just like she said, the way children are subjective. I didn't realize that for a very long time, the expectation I had of my mother is that she could fix everything. So fix the pain, fix the mistreatment that happened when she was away, fix the, all these things. And so one of the things that I had to realize is that I was holding her up to the place of a God, and we generally do that. Mothers are held close to almost God, so you can't say anything about them, but yet that is also the thing that stops us from healing, because I had to realize that she was not capable of rewinding back those years and giving me what I needed. And so once I had that realization, I was able to make peace with, she's a woman who made choices, who did not necessarily know what those choices would result into. And I couldn't expect her to do something that was technically impossible. You
can't reverse the clock.
You can't. And so for me, it was, this is where I am. These are the pains and the wounds that I'm dealing with. It was a journey of both therapy and prayer and just walking with God. There were two verses that God brought to my attention that sort of spurred my healing journey. Psalms 27:10, which says, even if your mother and father abandon you, I will receive you, and I will never leave you or forsake you. Yeah, and then Isaiah 49:15, I believe, which says, even can a mother leave her child at her breasts, and even if she does, I will not forget you, and I have written your name on the palms of my hand. So for me, what that was, and I'm not a Bible scholar, but what it spoke to me was, this thing has been there since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
We don't talk about it, but if it's in the Bible, then it speaks to me that this thing has been happening.
Yeah.
And if it has been happening, God has a promise for those of us who this is our story. And how I look at it is, we're not all the same. It's how there's a number line, there's -10 all the way to +10. I feel like there are many people along that number line in regards to their relationship with their mothers. It might not be as crazy as our story, but it might be, you remind her of your father, and that relationship ended badly, and so she's triggered, and so how she parents you is different, or how she tends to be kinder, say, to the child who's most like her, and your personality, smaller things like that, or even more difficult things. There's a spectrum of us, and for me, why I wrote the book is for people to be able to reflect and then be able to do the healing work they need to, and also just go to God about this thing, because I feel like if you're stuck in that place of your parent it's only your parents who can fix this, you'll never be able to get that healing.
You'll never be able to get that healing. And it can't be only the parent can fix it. But I think I must say, for every person who has a mom out there, please just treasure your mom. Because I was also thinking of the experiences that I've had with Althea. Some have not been so great, even though we have problems. Because there's so many people who have problems with their mom, mother-daughter scenarios. At least you have your mom there with you. I think that's one of the things that, as I read this, as I listened, is at least she's there. She's there and she's present, despite the fact that maybe you don't get along and you don't agree on certain things. Because like I said, even for you, where I stopped reading the book is to imagine that even for me, that relationship being cut off, that would have been very sad. Because right now we are sad about things, but that would have been too much trauma of cutting it off completely. Because I'm even thinking for you, it's almost helpless. What does the child do? What does the girl do without her mother? And then also for you guys, there's also another benefit. At least they're still there somewhere. Some people have had to bury their mothers. So she's not there at all. So that relationship is gone. That's even now more. That's the number 0 to -10. Now -10 is she's buried, she's gone. So I think there's a way that we still have to appreciate them. And I think Patricia brought up a point. What hurt her, and I don't know if you've ever had this conversation, what would hurt somebody so much, like for you, that they would leave their children? Because me, I can't even imagine. I mean, I don't know. How do I sleep? I don't know whether they've eaten. I don't know what has happened to them. It would be but I've never been there, so I can't judge there. But I just feel like it would tear me apart to be away from my child like that. But have you ever had conversations with your mom?
No.
No.
My mom is not one to have conversations. I remember the last time we met, she told us, me and my brother, at least she didn't leave us in a children's home. She left us with our dad.
Wow.
So
that's her reasoning.
Yeah, that's her
reasoning is, at least I left you with a parent.
Yeah. And what I came to find out is she actually doesn't think it was a really bad thing that she did.
Really?
So when I look at things from her side, it made me less angry. because to her she has reasoned this thing out, and it actually worked out well. And I think also it's a way of her comforting herself, which I have started to do that for her. Like, I want her to think, because it hurts her, and so I try to make her see it well. Like, I'm trying to make her see we turned out well. There's something we learned even in the place of your absence. There's people we became even despite of you not being there. One of the things I know I wanted to do with her, like, sometimes she can say some really hurtful things, and
even till today.
Yeah, even till today. And I've been tempted to give her a piece of my mind. So my brother called me one day, and he was drunk, and he told me we will always honor her. And I was so humbled. I was like, wow, a drunk man knows better what we should do than
It's hard, Patricia, because even me, I feel like now first we sit down, then I tell you everything that you did wrong. Then now from there we can say, we shall honor each other. Because what you're doing is honor, but the honor is also hurting you. Because you cannot express. I mean, I don't think Althea can do. Althea has to tell me what I've done wrong. This is what you've done. Let's go here. But I don't even know whether I don't know whether it's honor. I don't know. It's so, there's so much in that statement that, so you're not able to express. So you and then you're a healing counseling psychologist.
Yes.
Do you think even that's why you did what you did?
I think so. I think
try to understand how to heal yourself.
Yes.
Even as you're healing others.
Yes, because one of the things I realized, if I never get to deal with this right now, I'll keep saying I'll be a better mother than my mom.
But you don't know.
And you know, the reality is, when people tell me that in a counseling room, I want to laugh, because I say your children will model you. If you need to be that person today, that person you want your daughter to be, that mother you want to be, there's no magic that will happen when you become a mother.
That will make it happen.
Yeah. So you need to be that person today. And so when I started on this journey, I thought, what can I do differently? Because it's true, I have been hurt, and it's been a hard experience for me, but healing is my responsibility. If I never do anything about it, and I keep quoting my mom did, my mom said, my mom left, it will be carried on to my daughter. I'll still be the same mom, because I find tendencies, my mom tendencies in me. Yet she never even brought me up.
Imagine, you see, that's the power of, is it genetics and also patterns and generational things?
Yes.
When people even say that they're not, that generational things are not true, she didn't even bring you up.
Yes.
And their behavior.
Yes.
That you're modeling that is her.
Yes. So when I went into healing, I needed to first become who I wanted my mother to be. I needed to become soft. I used to be a very cold person. I used to give people feedback, and they say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Because it was good feedback. And I was just like, you just take the feedback.
Take the feedback.
But I needed to be soft, because I didn't have that nurture, that comfort, that softness of a mother. So I knew the hardness of a father. My dad used to tell me, you need to reason things out. You need to be hardened. Like, you need to think like a man. So a part of me was so hardened, and I could reason like a man. I could be so detached. But then I needed to be soft and warm. And that's what counseling helped me do. And one of the things counseling also helped me do was that I need to heal backwards. I need to heal. I need to go back to move ahead. So I needed to demonstrate these things with my mom. So when she's talking, I'm just like, oh, but you see, we turned out well. Like, we thank God that He was there with us. And she was telling me the other time, she used to pray for us.
Really?
Yeah. And it was the funniest thing, because that's the softest I've experienced. I was just like, wow, she prays.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there was somewhere in her thoughts.
Yes.
Okay. And then for you, Saiton, also, I want you to speak, but also to bring it from the angle you're a mother now.
Yes.
How old is your amazing son?
He just turned 8. So for me, I always knew there was an issue, but I don't think I understood what she understood up until I became a mom. There's something that they say, how trauma travels even through the DNA. So it's almost as if when they put him in my arms the first time, I literally began to feel, I don't even know how to explain it, but it literally was, it's almost as if I felt abandoned again.
Really?
Yes.
It brought back abandonment feelings.
Holding
your son.
Yes. because I was still within me is still that abandoned child, right? And that's not healed. And so I knew I wasn't a mother in the way that I was watching other people mother. And so for a long time, I started looking for help. So I'd look for therapists, and I would feel like many of them are not understanding. I think it was the fifth or sixth one who finally understood what it was. Because you see, mothering a child gives them identity.
Yes.
It gives them that sense of worth, that sense of belonging, all of those things which I hadn't had in so many years. So how could I give what I didn't have, you know? And so for me, it was a very difficult thing beginning on the journey. And what I realized even when I started, people have such a attachment to the word mom. When I talk about my own things, it would trigger everyone else's. And sometimes people would even fight me about me discussing my journey.
Why?
Because when it comes to mothers, when you say the word mother, people don't think about you and your mother. They think
about their own mother.
Exactly. And so people are uncomfortable with the things that you're raising, because if there's issues there that they've never faced, you're now basically poking in there just by retelling your story or even telling the things that you're learning. And what I find is a lot of people are in denial. A lot of people are not willing to explore, because there's a point at which, as a child, your mother is, and your parents are like gods, right? So with proper development, you're supposed to get to a place where you view them as humans. But many people have not gotten there, right? And so you're basically messing with the image and the place where they've put them, and so they're unable to walk with it, to just be able to discuss that with you. So for me, I think maybe 2021 was the first year where I was very vocal. I was like, Mother's Day is not happy for everyone. Yeah, because for me, it was a reminder of all the absences and what was not there, in as much as I wanted it to be there. Because I think the first 7 years, I really worked hard at trying to rebuild the relationship in the way that I thought it should be. But you see, you can't rebuild by yourself, one. And then also, that also gives the assumption that you're all on the same page. The person, we're basically strangers because of that. And I couldn't accept who she was. And she left a little girl who's now a grown woman. And so there's a way in which we were not meeting in the middle. Even as you say, you know, that ability to tell somebody, you know, you did this. I used to try and do that, but I realized, I think in the healing journey, that used to trigger her, because for her it was a litany of all the things that she hadn't been there to do. And so for you to be able to walk that journey, even as a mother, it's for you to heal. You can't parent your children and act out what you think that you should be acting out, because kids feel the heart.
Yes.
They feel your emotions.
Kids pick the feelings.
Exactly. The emotions, the underlying things. And so if you have anger, if you have bitterness, if you have all of those things, best believe those are the things your child will pick up. And for me, it was such a big thing. Initially I started because I didn't want to pass this down, and it was the biggest motivator. But then the truth is, I don't have control over that. All I can do is do my best in terms of, as God is leading me and as the healing path I'm on with the people who I'm working with, that's the best I can do. Because you literally will pass on things. Because if you're not conscious of something, you definitely will pass it on. And even if you're conscious of it, if you've not dealt with it, you still will. You get.
But you see, when Patricia said her mom didn't bring her, but she still has some of the traits and the characters. You find yourself doing things because it's already in our DNA. It's already programmed in us.
Yes, it's programmed, but there's also healing. So what I've found is, the more I dealt with with the wound of the absence and what I perceived as rejection, because as she said, children own things. So for me, I carried a lot of shame, a lot of rejection. The shame was the story that was in my head is, what sort of child are you whose mother doesn't want? It's not that she didn't want me. It just wasn't possible. But you see, that was an underlying tape. So until you go to therapy or until God reveals it, you don't actually know you're carrying that and making decisions based on that, right? And unfortunately, also passing that down. So until I was able to do the work around uncovering these stories, what these stories told me about people, about God, about myself, until I was able to honestly look in the mirror and say that this happened to me, this is what it made me believe, and this is not true.
this is not true.
Yeah.
It's not the true picture.
It's not.
There are very many other moving parts of what is true.
Exactly.
Yes,
And
Patricia.
I wanted to add on that part about children. You know, they learn their first 7 years are very important because that's when their personality is formed. So the thing is, they model you. In these 7 years, they don't have the capacity to understand what you're telling them. They only do as you do. So what people forget is the child is going to take on your form, your behaviorisms, your attitude. Like basically, it's a real photocopy of you. What you think is, I'll teach my child to do this. I'll teach my child to do this. They have no capacity to understand that. So if you don't work on yourself, you have to become that person you want your child to be. You already have to become that person because by default, I lived with my mom for only 3 years. And there's still things I do. And I'm just like, the first time I met her and she said something and I was like, what? I normally say that. And she didn't sit me down and teach me. I just modeled her. And so that's the thing. You have to become what you want your child to be. There's nothing you'll teach them. There's nothing you'll tell them. They will only do as you do.
That's so powerful. That is so powerful. Yes.
Just to add on that, there's a thing my husband and I were talking about. You know, he's like, sometimes when you notice things, you need to also ask God, is this me? Is this him? Is this my wife? And try to unpack. And I think for me, being a mom has been my greatest place of growth because having my child forced me to really confront things that I had never thought, never confronted. And what I realized is a gap because there's certain things a mom is supposed to teach. And so when she's not there or she's not able to teach, you actually have gaps. And so when we were discussing the gap, I was like, this is actually something I've noticed. But now I have greater motivation to learn about this, to work on it so that then I can teach him. There's a thing that happened to me. When I started doing the healing work, I discovered many of my friends actually either didn't grow up with their moms or didn't have good relationships with their moms. And when we had the discussion, we realized we learned a lot or modeled a lot from TV or from other mothers.
And there
because
was not even that much TV at that time.
Okay,
Yes.
true, but there was a lot of TV from, like you say, the soap operas, the comedy shows, the dramas. That's where our models of motherhood and womanhood were coming from. Because if your mom is not present, or if you don't have that relationship to discuss things, where else are you going? And I think there's a danger even for this current younger generation because they have so much access to social media.
Yeah.
It's the influencers who are quote unquote parenting them. It's not their job to, but these are the models they have. And so for myself, because once I recognized it, I was able to see how much of my belief system or who I was based on certain things, and then to be able to unpack. I'm like, do I really believe this? No. Is this congruent with my faith? No. And then now begin to unpack, because there were so many things that I'd picked up without having an underlying, which even was against my underlying values, right? But until I began the journey of healing, I was not able to figure that out.
Not able to unpack them.
Yeah.
And so you said mom came the day before your wedding.
Yeah.
So now she came to the wedding the next day.
Yes. So
And
I met
played a
her.
role.
No, she came 2 days before, but I met her the day before. Yeah.
And then she was there, part of the wedding.
Yes, she was. She was. Okay. Yeah. It was all sorts of upheaval emotionally.
I can imagine there's upheaval emotionally, and then I'm just feeling it just feels surreal, unreal. Is it real? Is it happening? I mean, I'm thinking that's what I would be going through, and I wasn't even there. But that would be a lot, and the pressure already of a wedding. To add this to a wedding, is a lot.
It was a lot, and there was also a lot. You know how sometimes weddings have a lot of family drama. So
They
there's
always
also-
have weddings have a lot of family drama. That is, weddings equals family drama.
Yes, so that was also now another thing. I think I cried a lot during the honeymoon, not because I wasn't happy, but because it was the only way I had of processing all the many things that had happened, including her arrival. Because I remember I saw her the day before for a bit. We got married and then we went off on our honeymoon. And so I didn't get the chance to actually process anything that I was going through. So it took a long time. I actually feel like I processed a lot of that probably in the last 4 or 5 years. Because I didn't necessarily know how to deal with it, right? And what I think I also didn't realize is her coming back. I feel I reverted to like the 9-year-old.
Yeah.
In
I
certain
think there's
ways.
a possibility of that, of reverting back to the child, because Now your mom is here.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's one of those things for, I think I had to grow emotionally to get to the point where I can look at things holistically and not from the view of the child. I feel like a lot of people don't realize, but a lot of their pain is buried in the fact that they've not been able to grow emotionally. So you're dealing with a 45-year-old, but sometimes they're triggered to age 7, age 10, 11. And so you're not really dealing with a 45-year-old, but you're dealing
with a 7-year-old.
Exactly. And so that's why I'm so big on healing. And I talk about it a lot in my podcast, because I really feel like a lot of the things that are troubling people are rooted in the places where their pain is.
But you know, it's not easy to face healing. I remember, because I'm always so strong of myself, when the first time I did therapy out here, I was like, no. And I said bye, and I went. I left. I said I don't even want. And I said even African mothers do not do therapy. Which is this? But then again, it came round. I was like, I think we need to do therapy, and she was also ready. So this time it's been different, but very hard.
It is
very hard. Very hard, because it's. I was saying, how am I discovering myself at 58? Like who does that? Like I should have done this at 30. Yeah, who wants to be 58 and discovering things about yourself? Good things, not so great things, decisions that you made. I mean, it's too much. Let's just, so I can understand why people don't want to go through a healing process. It's very painful.
I understand.
What I find about it, because I take people through the process.
healing process.
Yes, it's there's what we call the presenting issue. Like for me,
presenting issue.
Yeah, this is the issue that brought you. For me, I thought I was unlovable. Because my mom left, I was like, oh, only I can be. I have to be unlovable. And that's why I always avoided people, because I didn't want them to realize I'm unlovable. So I just wanted to stay away from them. So that's the presenting issue. When I come for counseling, now the counselor wants to know, where is this coming from? Now that's the work.
Yeah, that's the work.
So now we're looking at the underlying issue. What triggers this symptom?
Yes.
People want a bandage for the symptom.
No.
Because I normally tell my clients, you could have Googled these things. You didn't need to come for a session. You could have looked for 10 ways to develop my self-esteem. But you came to me. So we are going to have to open up this wound, look in it, so that we can find the underlying issue, the root cause of your issue.
Yeah.
And sometimes healing is more painful than the hurt itself, than the trauma itself. Because first, it's inconveniencing. You have to be vulnerable. It never comes at the right time. Like I need to move on with my life. Why do I have to look back to move ahead? So most people are not willing to feel it's like you are intentionally exposing yourself to the pain again.
This is it.
So that you can heal.
And for me, Patricia, what happens, sorry, Saiton, but for me also is I've written, I like to write, but I'm telling you, I've written volumes. I have gone back, you see, now that's the problem. I have gone back to my earliest memories of my childhood, trying to figure out, where did this thing come from? I've looked at my circumstances. I had good parents, but there were issues there. Things I've never seen. I traced my generational patterns. I almost felt them. I was like, this is me. This is me. This is me. I couldn't believe it. So painful. So you have to be ready. Because if you look at this is me, and we're just starting. I've not even unpacked everything that I need to unpack, but I am shocked. And I have written pages. I have sat down. I have taken time. I have thought about every situation. I've seen things connecting. I'm seeing my great-grandmother, my great-grandfather on this side. This happened. Then me. Then I'm seeing things that I never saw. So for me, first of all, my first advice is for anyone who is young out there, please do this thing early. Me, I'm discovering myself 50 plus. Please. Go find out who you are. Go find out what your triggers are. Go find out what needs to heal now. Because I think it will give you a more powerful life. Even now, there'll be power, but it would have solved so many things. Like, I wish I even went to therapy before I got married. At Matu and Althea's wedding, there was a therapist. I was like, why is the therapist? I came out, who's this guy on the program? But Matu brought his therapist because that's how the journey began. Like, even when he told God, I want a wife, God said, go to therapy, fix yourself, then come and tell me you want a wife, So I think it would solve so many problems if we went through that process when you're still single, when you're still young, because it's a good process to go through, to unpack yourself and unpack why you are who you are and the things that have happened to you. It's such a powerful process.
And I think
Sorry. Okay. For me, what I feel I experienced was soul shock. Like, there are things you discover and you're like, what? You almost want to faint, fall
Yes.
down, because you're like, what in the world is this?
Mm.
And what I tell people, because a lot of people I'm working with who are starting the journey, who are in between, you really need God's help. God, the Bible says God is the God of all comfort. And so one of the things that I do is I would literally go and pray about these things, because I'm like, what in the world is this? And so you pray, you ask God for comfort. I think it's really important for people who are going through this journey of healing to also include joy, things that give them joy, because otherwise you will not make it.
And it will just be downhill.
Yes, which for me happened for a very long time. It was so difficult for me. I look at it as a house that was built. It's been passed down through centuries, and then there are rooms that have never been opened, never been cleaned, never been anything. So you open it and you find a skeleton there. What do you do with it?
What's the skeleton?
Yeah, and then there's so many things that I kept on discovering, and just like you said, being able to connect the dots, being able to see this thing is 4 generations as far as I can trace it. When I look around, I can see, because it's not just me, and I think in a bad way and in a good way, it made it feel less overwhelming once I saw it was not just me, because before it felt like a me problem,
Yeah.
But one of the things that also came up when I started to see that is also understanding that God has given people an anointing for healing. He's also given you the power to break these cycles. He's also given you the awareness and the knowledge. I keep telling people, I feel like this is a season for healing. Never before have we had as many therapists as we have.
I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah, never before have we had as much knowledge as we have. Never before have we had books the way we do. Just even when I think back at the book I wrote, it was for the 9-10-year-old me. Had I seen this back then, I feel like my journey would have been so different. And so one of the things that even as you begin this is to understand God is a God of light. When he's asking you to begin the journey so that he can shine a light on the things that have held you captive without you knowing.
Yeah, all the things that will hold you captive if you don't address them.
Exactly.
You see, that's the other thing. These things will hold you captive if you don't address them. You have to address them. Yes, Patricia.
I think now one of the things I realized, because I used to think I'm not lovable, so I sat in the counseling session, and we have to find out where is this coming from. I have to address my mom, which I didn't want to. I just wanted a bandage for how do I become lovable very fast by the end of this session. So we had to address the real issue, where it's all coming from. And I realized she didn't have the capacity to love me.
This is it.
It was not my fault.
She didn't have the capacity.
But then you see, I was a 30-plus-year-old person operating with a childlike mindset. I was still thinking, it's me. I was still having the subjective mentality of other people's mistakes are my fault, and because that's what children think. So one of the things I've come to find when I address people, they still have childlike mindsets. I'm dealing with a 45-year-old.
Yes, like she said, but you're dealing with a 7-year-old.
Yeah, because we never navigated it's what we call the identity crisis, where you question your beliefs. What makes me think the way I think? People are still dealing with identity crisis at 60 because you never challenged your beliefs, you never challenged your values, you never sat down to ask, who am I? Because initially, when people asked who are you, you said, I'm Nani's daughter. I go to this school. These are my brothers and sisters.
This is where
it was all about the community. But you have to get to a point where you ask, who am I as Patricia? So people move from I'm Nani's daughter, they go to say, I'm a doctor. That's a skill. You're not a doctor. That's a skill you developed. What if you never had that skill? Who would you be? That people don't even have that time. The same person, you want to get to the highest level in life, yet you give yourself the least amount of attention.
That's so powerful, Patricia.
Yeah, and
you want to get to the highest level of life,
yes,
but you give yourself the least attention.
Yet it's this person who's supposed to take you to the highest is the one person.
This person, this person that
is
you're
that
developing
person you give
is the person who's supposed to take you
to the highest levels of life.
But you give the least to
because you have no self-awareness. You do not know your identity. You are not able to know your behaviors, your thoughts, your emotions. You have not invested anything in yourself, and yet you have placed this demand on yourself to make you the greatest person. that it might not happen, and even if it does, you'll be a very toxic person, because you are supposed to take care of a lot of people, yet you yourself, you can't give people what you don't have.
So you must start with me, and they're telling me we're at time out, so I want you to give your parting shots. But first of all, this book, where can I find it, Saiton? This book, people need to read Missing My Mummy.
It is found at Nuria bookstores. It is also found at Mavuno Downtown and Mavuno Lavington. Nuria also do delivery across Kenya if you'd like it. So that's where you'd
But it
find
has to go digital. We're in the
Yes.
digital age.
It is going
Where
to go
is
digital.
so
Digital
it's gonna
is
be
coming
on
soon.
Kindle,
Yeah.
Amazon, all those
Yes,
platforms.
it's coming soon.
Because
Yeah.
this is a global problem.
Yes, it is. It
Yeah.
is.
So you're working on it.
Working on it.
Okay.
If you want to start the healing journey, I do have a podcast, Healing Growth podcast. It's available on YouTube, on Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. That's where you can start. Then also my Instagram handle, I have a lot of collected material on just what, stuff that I would find online from other people, because that's where I started. Initially, I didn't actually have money for therapy, so that's what I started with.
Really?
Yeah, being able to journal, being able to ask yourself hard questions, being able to dig out, and also prayer is a big thing. So I do have a couple of prayers in the book and also on the podcast as well, on YouTube. There are a couple of prayers as well.
That's amazing. Patricia, what's your parting shot for us? But you've given us food. That's what? I'm investing the least in myself. Tell me.
What I can say is we need to look to God to give us the real healing. That it is even God who directs us to the people He has equipped to help us in our healing journey. Even the counseling psychologist. But the one who wants the very best for us, it's God.
It's God.
It's God.
And healing with God, it's He gives you the true freedom, because you get to forgive backwards, and you get to live in freedom going forward. Because God is not petty.
This is it.
And He's not going to say, I do not. God loves even our moms.
Yes,
He does.
God,
He does.
He loves them so much.
He loves them.
And that's why He's giving us the healing that sometimes maybe we are the moms they needed.
Yes.
It's sometimes roles can be reversed, and you could be that mom they needed you to be. And so let's lean into God. Let's consult with God. Let's cry to God. Let's look for the words about our healing. Let's fully be dependent on God, because it's only through healing that you can live out the full purpose that God created you to be. He wants you to live it out fully without anything holding you back, not your experiences, not your traumas, not your pains. He wants you to live out fully the purposes for which He created you for. So let's lean into God and also apply the steps He gives us. What He tells you to do, do it.
Do it.
Yeah, He's the one ordering your steps.
And even just finishing from that, for me, the reason we're doing this is Alora. Alora, it's my grandchild. Like, we've got to fix this so that the next generation, we don't pass this drama onto them, and we give them a firm foundation. So she's our motivation. And I think that's important. So we heal us so that she can have a different experience. It's very, very powerful.
You are the ancestor they will be quoting.
Imagine.
In
They
the
will be
years to
quoting
come.
me.
Yes.
They shall quote, but it's important because
Yeah.
as I look at her, sometimes I just look at her and I wonder, unajua ile maisha inakuja ama you are just moving. I'm thinking about what are the things that we want to provide for her a place where she can thrive and flourish. So, and for everyone who's missing their mommy, like we said, start with God, start with prayer, start with counseling. There are podcasts you can go to. We're going to give you Patricia's social media handles. You can get in touch with her. She's a good counseling psychologist. And I think the reason even is that that certain things happen, don't say God does them, is so that God can show you it's doable. So it's doable. It's doable. There's no mommy, there was no daddy, there was something that was missing. Life was not perfect, but there's a way to rise above that and create something new, spectacular. I'm amazed. I'm so happy that you're married. You have a son. We know Patricia wedding bells are coming soon. And so we just know that it's a better place to be. A healed place is where we want everyone to be. So God bless you, and I pray that this has greatly ministered to you. Please remember to subscribe, and to give us your feedback. God bless you and love you so much.